Hey, my name is Tiara and I am the owner of Black Teacup. Welcome back to my channel. So this week I'll be showing you guys how I created this V-split rose tumbler. Everything that I used, of course, will be linked down in the description box below. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and let's get started. Also, if you want to stick around at the end of the video, I will show a few pictures from our vacation to St. Lucia.
Okay, so we're starting out with a 30-ounce skinny. I have already sanded and prepped my tumbler and wiped it down with alcohol. All right, so to get a better measurement for our V-split and where to put our tape and lines, I'm going to start out by drawing a circle of the bottom of my cup on a sheet of paper. Once you have that circle, then you just want to cut that out with some scissors, and we're going to fold it in half. Then I'll just take the folded edges and line it up on a lined sheet of paper and put my ruler on those lines where those creases were. That way I can find out where the middle of my cup is. I'm also going to put notches like with a Sharpie at the top and the bottom of each of those lines. I go over this in more detail on my mint crushed diamond video. I will have that video linked down below if you need a better explanation of how to do the V-split measurements. Here I'm just taking some blue painter's tape and I'm going to connect my lines. So that top notch I'm going to connect to the bottom notch that I drew on the opposite side and vice versa. You'll have to play with your tape a little to make sure it lays down flat, but it's pretty, I guess, stretchy. It won't rip that easy, so you can maneuver it. So you'll just keep playing with your tape until you have it where you want it and it's laying flat. Once you have that done and your tape is lined up, you'll just take your X-Acto knife and cut off the excess edges. So next we're going to go straight into spray painting. I am using Rust-Oleum Vintage Blush and Rust-Oleum Ivory. The tumbler has already been sanded, so no need to do anything else. You can wipe it down with alcohol before spray painting to make sure there's no oils or residue on the tumbler. So I know that I want this bottom V portion to be rose gold, and then it's going to fade into a cream, the ivory color. So here I've spray painted the top portion of that bottom V, and then I'm just going to go back with the ivory and do the bottom portion. The paint doesn't have to be perfect because it's going to be covered by glitter. And I'm going to go ahead and spray paint the top V portion beige because that's going to be beige as well. And then what you can do, because the rose gold is kind of getting faded away with the ivory, so I'm just going to take my rose gold or my blush paint and just go back over that little section right there. Once this dries, we can take it in for glittering. So we're not going to remove the painter's tape just yet, so make sure you leave that on there. So of course I'm going to be glittering my tumbler using the epoxy method. I just stuck my finger, a gloved finger, in a cup of epoxy, and it's just enough to rub around, in the places that I need it. I'm only going to glitter the bottom V portion of my tumbler, so I'm being careful at that painter's tape line. It's okay if it gets on the tape, but try not to go too far over. So I'm using this rose gold glitter that I got from Michaels. It's two different glitters. One of them was a chunky glitter and one of them was a rose gold fine glitter. And I kind of just mixed the two together. I will have both of those linked down below. And then for the ivory glitter, I got that from Peachy Olive Glitters, and that one will be linked down below as well. So for the ombre, you just want to hold your cup at an angle and then remember to just tap your glitter out and let it fall down the side of the cup. I did that going both ways with the rose gold going down and then the ivory going up. Since it is chunky glitter, I went ahead and used a piece of parchment paper to kind of press it down. And also you can go ahead and remove your painter's tape. I let my tumbler dry overnight and here it is, dried and ready to be sealed. Look at the shine, y'all. I love it. So I was going to seal this cup with Rust-Oleum matte clear, but I ran out of spray paint. So I'm going to use this polyacrylic that I got from Walmart. It's going to look cloudy when you open the can, but it will dry clear. And I just apply it using a silicone brush. I've used this multiple times in the past to seal my designs, and it's a way to ensure that your glitter will not move. So if you don't have it, make sure you go get you some. I got mine at Walmart. That will be linked down below as well. So I let that dry for a couple hours and then I went in with my first coat of epoxy. I did forget to record that, but yeah, we did the first coat of epoxy and I let that cure overnight, and here we are for sanding. Because it is a chunky glitter, there are some rough spots. So after that first coat, I went ahead and decided to sand down some of those rough spots using my sanding block. So I'm going to repaint the back section that's not glitter, the ivory section. So I'm just going to tape off these lines again, following the same pattern. As you can see here, my paint job is, yeah, it just needs a fresh look. So I'm just going to use my painter's tape to go back over that section, the glitter section, and then we're going to use some saran wrap or plastic wrap to protect the glitter portion while we spray paint that ivory portion at the top. I just line the plastic wrap up with my painter's tape and then take another piece of painter's tape to secure it down. That way we don't get spray paint on the glitter. So I'm taking the same Rust-Oleum ivory spray paint and just going back over that one section before we epoxy it. I want to get a nice smooth ivory paint job on the back, and then we're going to seal it with epoxy. And you can peel your tape immediately after. Just be careful not to touch that wet paint section. After that paint has dried, I'm going to go ahead and coat the cup with epoxy so that we can seal in that nice paint job, and also go back through with your torch to pop any bubbles. And then we'll be ready for our next step. After our cup has cured for a day or so, I'm ready for decals. I found these roses on Etsy and I printed them using printable vinyl. And I cut them out using the print and cut feature in Silhouette Studio. And I'm just going to place my roses all around the top portion of the cup, wherever I see fit, whatever looks good, to my eye. If it overlaps any section, it's okay. It's going to have like a stripe on it, a vinyl stripe. But I also use my X-Acto knife to trim off any that's like way too excessive. After you have all of your flowers in place where you want them to be, you can go ahead and go in with a very thin layer of epoxy to seal them in before we go on to the middle of the V section. I did not seal this vinyl, the printable vinyl. It doesn't need to be sealed. You can just go straight in with epoxy. All right, so next we're going to go ahead and glitter this V portion, the stainless steel that you see here. I'm going to take some painter's tape and tape off the outside edges of the V's. This is why we went ahead and epoxy those decals in, because we don't want to risk ripping them with this painter's tape. You'll just follow the lines all the way through, just like we did in the beginning. So it should be pretty easy to line this up. It doesn't matter if your tape is wrinkled or whatnot, as long as you have those edge lines nice and smooth. Cut off the excess, and we're ready. So I'm going to apply my glitter using the epoxy method. Now thinking back on this, I should have base painted that stainless steel. That way I wouldn't have had to do 2 coats of glitter. This glitter is kind of sheer. And I normally base paint before I glitter, but this time I didn't. So yeah, better to base paint. I used a gloved fingertip to apply a very small amount of epoxy to that stainless steel section, and then just pour your glitter on. I did end up pulling my tape, and I love the way it looked, but then I realized that it was kind of sheer, so I did go back over with a second coat of glitter after this first coat dried. So I'm going to seal this glitter in the same way I did in the beginning. We're going to use this polyacrylic to seal that burgundy stripe of glitter. This time I am using a foam brush and I'm just dabbing along my glitter. Once I have full coverage on that one section, I'm going to go ahead and let that dry for a couple of hours before we go in with some epoxy to seal it all in. Here I'm just going in with a nice coat of epoxy to seal everything back in, and then I'm going to use my torch. We're going to let this cure for a day or so, and we're going to go out for sanding. So this should be our last sanding before the cup is complete. I'm going to go ahead and take my rotary sander and sand around the lip of the cup to expose a small line of stainless steel. I also did this on all of my cups, and you've probably seen me mention it on previous videos. You will also want to go ahead and use a sanding block to make sure that the cup is completely smooth all the way around, because the final step is adding the final stripe lines. If you have any bumps, you'll be able to see that. Cut my stripe using Silhouette Studio. Pretty much you just make a very, very long rectangle, and I make it 1/4 of an inch wide, or you can make it smaller, however thick you want it, and I make it 12 inches long, and then just cut them out. So I have this sheet of strips, and you'll just follow along the lines of your burgundy glitter. Use your X-Acto knife to cut off the excess. And here I'm just adding some extra decals as per the customer's request, and also the names. And that's pretty much it. After I added these decals, I added my final layer of epoxy, and here is the final result. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.